So, good morning, everybody. A very warm welcome to you. It's lovely to have you here today. We've got quite a number of you attending this virtual open day. My name is Janet Rose, and I'm the principal of Norland College. And what's going to happen in the next hour or so, I'm going to do a little introduction, and then I'm going to hand over to one of my colleagues. And you'll hear from various colleagues throughout the hour, such as the head of teaching and learning, the vice principal, the head of finance, and so it goes on. And also, most importantly, you'll be hearing directly from one of our current students, in fact, one of our international students, because I know we also have, in addition to people attending from all over the UK today, we also have some international students attending. And I suspect for some of you, it might be in the middle of the night or something. So thank you very much if that's the case, if you've got up at the crack of dawn or stayed up late at night. And just for fun, I thought I'd just say hello to where everyone is hailing from. We've got people attending today from Canada and the US, and then down in Mexico. We've got people all the way down under in Australia. Also from Trinidad, from Sri Lanka. We've got some from South Africa, also all the way over in China. And of course, some from Europe as well, from Spain, Austria, Germany, and so on. So a very extra warm welcome to all of you as well. So let's press on. What's going to happen is we're going to describe different aspects about the course, and right at the end, there will still be an opportunity for a Q&A. And as you may have heard, this session is recorded. And we have kept your camera and microphone off just to help maximize transmission. And there will be an opportunity to add any questions later on. So off we go, let's crack on. And by the way, I do have a slight cold, so sorry if I sound a little bit coldy and chesty. It's not too bad, and it's not COVID. In fact, that's become a very common expression. Every time anyone coughs nowadays, we all have to say, it's not COVID. So we get regularly tested. And whilst we're on the subject, and let's get that one out of the way, just to reassure you, we hope by the time you come to Norland, if indeed you do, COVID will be something that we've all sort of started to learn to live with, and it's sort of no longer quite the trauma that it was. But just to let you know that right through this whole crisis, Norland has managed to still operate 80% face-to-face. We've put in very stringent and careful risk mitigation, and we're pleased to report that 18 months or so later, we had no actual outbreaks, no actual transmissions on campus, which is remarkable. So just to reassure you that we've kept many of those measures in place. So we've made it as safe as it can be under the circumstances. So I hope that's addressed any COVID related questions you might have had. And as I say, we are doing practical face-to-face teaching. It's a very practical course. And so we have very little online. Only about, I think, 10% is online. So there's a slide which I think you've probably already read. I'm not necessarily going to read every bullet point to you, but really this is just to remind you that really this is a degree that is unique, and a diploma that is unique, because you get those two qualifications. And that's an important message to hear, and also helps to explain, as you'll hear later, why we cost so much. We are a charity, we are a company, a higher education organization, but we are owned by a charity, and we operate not for profit. That's an important message to hear as well. So we're very unique, as I've said, we are world renowned, we have this very strong heritage, but that doesn't mean that we don't make sure that we're cutting edge. And you're going to hear over the next hour all the wonderful, incredible opportunities that we can provide for you for whilst you're both studying here and also once you've graduated as well. So on we go. So this is really just to flag up to you that we have some very strong positive responses from the National Student Survey. So for those international students who don't know, all third years, and this would be perhaps yourselves as well one day, do an anonymous survey. Every single university in the country does that. And you'll be pleased to know that Norland is in the top 10% of all universities across the UK. You can see why. Look at those very high scores. This is what the students have told us we're good at. And that's very important because we're way above the national average, which is very exciting. And I hope reassuring that this really is top quality in terms of the provision and what you will experience and so on. On to the next slide, thank you. And we're also going to shout about this. We have in the past been awarded excellence for many different things, and hot off the press, we've just been awarded the Graduate Outcomes Award. Now, this is an important award to have because we were competing with all other universities in the UK, and we won, which is incredible. And what's more incredible is that this actual award wasn't voted for by our students, who you could say might have a little bias towards us. This was voted for by students from other universities across the UK, as I said. So that's incredible, isn't it? They felt that we were the best in class in terms of graduate outcomes. And that is absolutely true. And it's a very important point, because if you're going to invest your time, your energy, your commitment, and your money to come to Norland, you want to know that there's a good return on that. And this is symbolic and an illustration that absolutely, yes, it is. And you'll hear more and more about that during the next hour, about why it is a very good return on your investment and why we have such positive graduate outcomes. So that's very exciting. So I'm going to hand over now to the head of teaching and learning, who's going to tell you a little bit more about why it is a degree with a difference.
Thanks, Janet. So as Janet says, I'm the head of learning and teaching. I'm Debbie Buck, and I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what makes our degree and diploma different. To be quite frank, you can get an early childhood studies degree in most universities, but when you think about what we provide here at Norland, it is very unique. So you have your main teaching on your degree. You also have your diploma. We have a very well-established curriculum, which we call value-added curriculum. And this is the guest speakers that we have. And we have a full programme of, guest speakers from all around the world who share with you their current research, their current thinking. And that's what keeps us cutting edge and innovative. As well as that, we have a full masterclass programme for you, which includes the practical skills that you need in terms of, how to change babies' nappies and, use that as a learning opportunity, which it absolutely is. How to make up bottles safely, how to support parents with breastfeeding. So it's not just about a degree, you're actually accessing almost 4 separate curriculums which feeds into your practice. So as you can see here, we are a 3-year undergraduate degree, and you'll be learning a broad spectrum of skills and knowledge. So you will be doing, the traditional psychology, sociology that you would expect. But also we will be linking in the neuroscience that is coming through, which is definitely underpinning everything we do. And you'll find that that will be a thread through almost every module. It's absolutely key to what we do. So some examples of modules that you might be accessing, things like making sense of children's behaviour. So you'll be looking at the theory that underpins why children might present in a certain way. And then your diploma element will give you the strategies that you can put in your nanny toolkit to support those children and families, for instance, to self-regulate. So this is how we put together your degree and your diploma. They're integrated. So the way that the timetable works, you will have a 3-hour chunk, which isn't as horrendous as it sounds, because you'll have perhaps an hour and a half theoretical knowledge, and then you'll have an hour and a half practical application. And again, this is what makes us different. You have that theory and the practice sitting together. So another module might be concepts of development and learning. This is how you will learn the art, and it is an art, of watching and observing children. What are they telling you? What is the child's voice telling you that you need to do next? And that will be a lot about becoming in tune and becoming at one, and supporting that child with regulation. So it's key to what we do. And of course, at Norland TU, we have a very strong inclusion programme. And again, inclusion and diversity will be running through most of your modules. And then, of course, we have to have a module of working with families and communities, because when you're a nanny, that's exactly what you'll be doing. So next slide, please. Thank you. So that's a little bit about how the diploma and the degree fit together. But in terms of the pure diploma that you'll be doing lots of play, because nanny's work is play amongst other things. You will be going into the nursery here, and you will be doing some experiential learning. You will be learning by doing. And that's well researched and underpinned by theory. So you will be accessing lots of play. You will be thinking about how to support children and families with their learning and development. So we will teach you, what do we expect children to be doing at certain ages and stages? That's fundamental to what you need to know. And of course, it's important that you stay well as a practitioner and nanny. And of course, how do you support children and their families when children might be poorly? What are signs and symptoms of certain illnesses? Where can you go for help and support? We will teach you all of those things. And again, they're the elements that you can't get anywhere else. And of course, sewing. Sewing and food and nutrition are key to the diploma. Sewing isn't just about the practical sewing, but it's teaching you skills of problem solving, resilience, that having a go and unpicking and going back and doing it again, and having that real sense of achievement that you've achieved something really quite wonderful. Food and nutrition, this is a thing that you will be doing every day when you work with the family. And so it's crucial. And we have actually bolstered that curriculum for this year. So you have 2 hours sewing and food and nutrition practical a week. But with food and nutrition, we've introduced an extra hour of just pure theory. And that's coming from the data that NQN have been collecting, an agency around what our end users want. What do our families want you to know? So we're always collecting this data and feeding it into your program so that you're up to date and current. And then, of course, in your final year, you have about 8 weeks of employment training, and that's really preparing you for your newly qualified nanny year. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about that because Mandy's going to tell you about that shortly. And you can see there, I'm sure you've read already, a lovely quote from Lucy about what makes her degree and diploma together and how everything fits together. Next slide, please. Thank you. And you can see some wonderful things here that students have been creating. So, you might come to food and nutrition and sewing not really knowing very much. And we have students with a whole spectrum of skills, but we will start right at the beginning and then take you through each step. And here are some examples of things that students have made. And I just love those baby pantaloons. They're absolutely fabulous. You can see some examples of activities there. So a lot of what you'll be doing in those practical lectures for the diploma is creating things that you can actually use with children to pop in your nanny toolkit. Maybe whilst you're at Norland, you're going to be doing some work. And so we will give you some resources that you can use. So it's important that, you feel like you're gaining some practical skills as we go along that then you can use in your real world experiences. Next slide, please. Thank you. And so we've talked about degree, diploma, your masterclass programme, value-added curriculum, and we can't talk about diploma without placement. Placement is going to be 50% of your time at Norland, and it's key to your practice. So you'll have a variety of placements. You'll work with children 0 to 8. So you're maybe going to schools, you're definitely going to earlier settings, and that will, be a variety of provision. Of course, you will go and work with families in your second year through a daily placement, and then you'll progress to a residential placement. And we're so lucky here at Norland that we can offer you some hospital experience on the maternity ward. And I might add here that actually Norland are the only students who are allowed on the maternity ward other than medical students. So we're very proud of that, and we get excellent feedback from the hospital about our students. And there's obviously an opportunity there to go up to paediatric ward. But we do need you as part of your training to work with newborns. And so you can see we offer you the full spectrum, and we provide these placements for you. We find them, and once you get into your second year, we do offer you an element of choice. But by and large, we will source them. We visit all of the placements. They're all vetted so that we know that you're safe. And again, you can see there a lovely quote about one of our first year students. Next slide, please. So you can see here, we need you to do a minimum of 6 placements, and there you are, you can see the variety there. So you have to do a minimum of 6 placements to be able to progress onto your newly qualified nanny year. And you can see here, you will spend an average of 1,216 hours in placement, which is about 50% of your course. And again, this is something that's unique. So I hope that's kind of packaged for you, your degree and your diploma. And I'm going to hand over to Mandy now, who is going to explore some of these things in a little bit more depth, particularly NQN.
Thank you, Debbie. Hello, everybody. I am the Vice Principal and Head of Quality and Standards and the Registrar. So I have quite a wide remit at Norland, but part of my remit is student support. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about that now. We have a very strong student support ethos here at Norland. We have our separate department of student support managers and advisors and officers. But on top of that, we also have all of our lecturers, all of our personal tutors. So there's a really good, strong team who will support you throughout your time at Norland. We recognise that you make a huge commitment actually to come to Norland in terms of your time, your emotional energy, and not forgetting your finances. It's a big undertaking and a big commitment. So we commit back to you. If you work hard and if you are committed to your studies, we will make sure that you succeed. And we do that through a range of a package of support that we can offer you in terms of academic support, both for students who have an identified and diagnosed learning need, but also for those who just need a bit of help in how to write the essay or how to interpret the assessment criteria or understand what they need to do for their assignment. We also have a counsellor on staff, a trained clinical psychologist, and we offer free counselling sessions to our students for short-term needs. We have an occupational health service as well, who we can also draw on. So we take students from a wide range of backgrounds with a wide range of support needs. And in our experience so far, we have always been able to support students to succeed where that commitment and the effort from the student is there too. So that's enough about student support. I think if we can move on to the next slide, please. And this just tells you what strong ratios we have in terms of our student support. So when we look at our students support team, our personal tutors, every student has a personal tutor who's there to support a wider range of things for the students. When you add in the library staff as well, who are also very keen to support you all, we have a ratio of 1 to 7. So 1 member of staff for every 7 students in the whole college is involved in supporting you in your studies, which is a really good, strong ratio. And then equally our outcomes, considering that our entry requirements are relatively low compared to other higher education institutions, you can see that we have a very good level of students that achieve a first class or a 2-1 degree. 75% in 2019-20 achieved a first class degree or a 2-1 degree. And I think that's due to the commitment and the amazing students that we have here at Norland, but also to the commitment of the staff that we have in supporting you to do your very best and meet your full potential. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is a little bit about employment preparation. You heard from Debbie that, that we have these dedicated weeks, 8 weeks at the end of your 3rd year, where we really teach you and give you the opportunity to practice skills that will make you stand out from everybody else when you're applying for those jobs. It's not just those 8 weeks though. We do continue to prepare you for employment throughout your time in terms of developing your professionalism. We use our code of professional responsibilities, for example, to make sure that you are always acting in the best interests of children and acting in a positive way that will make sure that you succeed too. So that goes on throughout the 3 years, and you can see that there's lots of things that we cover there. Interview techniques is an interesting one, for example. When you're going for a job interview as a nanny, you usually will be going to someone's home, which is very different from any interviews that you may have done before, where you may have gone to offices or retail outlets. And so we give you those extra tips that will help you to adapt your behaviour, your interview behaviour, to the fact that you're in somebody's home. We do teach you about relationship management, which is very important if you consider, if you're a live-in nanny, your landlord is also your employer. And therefore it can make it sometimes difficult for you to raise issues or concerns about one or the other thing. So we're very much of the mind that we should support you in understanding that although you are working in a family home, you are not part of a family. You are not part of that family. And I could tell you many stories actually about students and in fact graduates who blur those lines a little bit too much, and it causes problems. So it's something that we take very seriously to help you understand that really important, your status, I guess, within the house, and the extent and the boundaries that you should have within those relationships. In those final 8 weeks, you will see here we cover quite a lot of stuff. Contracts and finance may not seem the most exciting topics for you, but they are really, really important when you are negotiating your salary and your terms and conditions. So we make sure that you understand the law around contracts and finance and how to look after yourselves and protect your own interests. Paediatric first aid, of course. Security and cybersecurity training. We have former military intelligence officers coming in, and they will teach you about how to keep yourself and your charges safe, both in the real world and in the virtual world, which is becoming more and more important these days. I'm a bit of a dinosaur, so I probably don't know as much about this as I should do, but we will make sure that you absolutely do know everything you need to know in order to keep yourselves and your families safe. Skid pan is one that always grabs the headlines, and if we ever have any press come in, which we do quite often, they always want to film the students screaming as they drive their car around the skid pan at Castle Combe. You will all get the opportunity to do that. And whereas the press like to say that that's all about you escaping the paparazzi with your high profile charge in the back, and for some of you that might be a reality because many of our graduates do go on to work with very high profile families. For the majority of you though, it's mainly going to be about getting home safely and driving in all different types of adverse weather conditions. If you can imagine what it must feel like to be in the car, driving your children home in the dark when it's raining and it's windy and the children are cross and hungry, and you've got that nursery rhyme music playing, trying to keep them calm, and you've got a bit of a pounding headache. It's about how you control the car in those sorts of conditions to get everybody home safely. And Debrett's is also really important skills that you'll learn from Debrett's. This isn't just about which cutlery to use in which order. This is about how you communicate, how you hold yourself. I don't know if you've heard the statistic, but it's research shows us that people make their minds up about you within the first 6 or 7 seconds of meeting you. So this is about how you can make sure that those impressions of you are the ones that you want people to have. Next slide, please. And Debbie also mentioned to you about the NQN, or Newly Qualified Nanny Year. So this is another very unique aspect of our course. After 3 years in college, you will have completed your degree, but you will not yet have completed your Norland diploma. In order to complete your Norland diploma, you need to undertake a 12-month probationary nanny position and pass that. And once you've passed that, that's when you get your Norland diploma. So after your 4th year. Now this year, your 4th year, there are no fees to pay in this year. In fact, you are placed in a job where you will be paid, and you will be paid well. It can be a live-in job or a live-out job. It can be in London or in other parts of the country. So you will have a choice of well, this year I think we had over 460 jobs for our 80 or 90 students looking for them. So we recruit those jobs, we recruit those families who are willing to take on a newly qualified nanny. They understand that you are inexperienced in terms of being a Norland nanny, and so they recognise that you will need support, and you get support. So although you're not paying fees in that year, we have a dedicated newly qualified nanny team who will support you throughout that year. They will check in with you, they will come and visit you, they will assess you. So this isn't just about support, this is also about us assessing to make sure that you are putting into practice all the things you've learned during the 3 years while you've been at Norland. They will support you and your families through the appraisal processes to make sure that you get feedback from the family during that 12 months, and they'll support you to implement any changes in your practice that you need to put into place in order to successfully pass that newly qualified nanny year. And as I said, once you've completed those 12 months and you've successfully passed, hopefully, you will then achieve your Norland diploma, and you will be allowed to use the title Norland Nanny. And that gives you access to the agency and a lifelong opportunities for a wonderful career, which Janet will talk to you about in a little bit more detail. Next slide, please. So as you can see here, in 1920, 96% of our newly qualified nannies had started their full-time position within 6 months of completing their 3 years. And those that didn't, it was generally out of choice, that they wanted to take a little bit of a break or health reasons. So because we have so many jobs for our newly qualified nannies, you can, there will be guaranteed opportunities for you to start those jobs when you want to. Obviously, you have to be interviewed by the families. This isn't a placement, this is a job, and you will be within an employment contract with that family. So you will be interviewed by them, but we will support you through that whole process. And there you can see the average residential salary for a newly qualified nanny in London and the home counties in 1920. So that's not a bad salary once you have first completed your degree and it's your very first job. And bear in mind, this is a live-in salary. So that means you are not paying your accommodation. So you have no rent to pay, you have no bills to pay for your housing, your food is provided for you. So this is £21,315 is not a bad salary when you take all of that into account. And the salaries grow hugely after that, which Janet will talk to you about in a minute. Next slide, please. So in terms of student life while you're at Norland, it is a bit different from being in other universities in that you have to wear a uniform. But that uniform signifies professionalism. If you think of other well-known professions, doctors, nursing, armed forces, for example, that uniform signifies that you are a professional. The uniform is non-negotiable. So if you really don't want to come somewhere where you have to wear a uniform during your 3 years of study, then Norland is not the place for you. We find that when our students put on their uniform, they put on a persona. They adhere to the Norland Code of Professional Responsibilities, which gives you a framework for how you should be communicating and how you should be behaving when you are representing Norland. And the thing with the uniform is it's very visible. So it means that everybody knows that you are a Norland student because you're expected to travel to and from college in that uniform. So that comes with its benefits and its responsibilities. So it means that people look at you with respect, but it also means that you are on show. So if you park inconsiderately, please do not bring your car to Bath, by the way, because there is no parking and the traffic is terrible. However, if you do have a car and you park irresponsibly everyone will know it's you, and they will phone us and they will take a photograph of you and they will send us your photo and your car registration number. So there is no escape when you're in that uniform. So please bear that in mind. We have high expectations of you in that uniform. However, when you're not in that uniform, we want you to enjoy a wonderful student life, and Bath is a beautiful and wonderful place to do that, because we have 2 other universities here. So we have lots and lots of student life within the city, and we want you to fully engage with that and really enjoy it. When you're in your uniform, remember, you have those expectations, and the good people of Bath will dob you in if you drop those standards while you're in uniform. So just bear that in mind. We're quite a small campus, so we can't offer you a big student union life, but we do pay for you to join the Bath Spa Students' Union as associate members. So that means you have access to all of their clubs and societies, their trips. Each year we have a group of our students go skiing, for example, with the Bath Spa Students' Union. So lots of opportunities for you to engage as much or as little as you want to with that student union. And of course, we also do tailor activities to each student group. So if you come along and you have a particular love of a hobby, for example, if you play hockey or netball or football, or if you like knitting, you like singing, you just come to us and you say, I'd like to set up a club if there's not already one here, and we will support you to do that. And we have the wonderful Norland choir who perform all over Bath and at all of our special occasions. So you are also welcome to join the choir. Next slide, please. Finally, from me about accommodation, we don't have our own halls of residence, but we do have relationships with private landlords across Bath. We inspect their properties. We make sure that they are of a suitable standard. They are student accommodation, so please don't think you're going to be moving into a palace, because it is student accommodation. It will be shared housing, but we will make sure that it is appropriate for you. And we will then, if you want us to, we will house you with other Norland first years. So we will put you in houses across the whole city of Bath with other Norland students. So we will, if we make you an offer, we will then send you all the information about that, and you can just let us know that you would like to us to find you a house for that first year. Accommodation costs, for example, they're in 2021-22. So this academic year, they're between £500 and £550 per month, excluding bills. So that is just the rent payment. You will be paying bills on top. We don't know yet what level our rent will be set at for 22-23, so from September. But we will let you know and keep the website up to date as soon as we have that information. But that should give you an idea. It shouldn't raise by too much there. It'll be probably within the £500 to £600 range, I would imagine. But keep an eye on the website and we'll let you know. Okay, on that, I'm going to now pass over to Alex, who is going to talk to you more about finances.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mandy, for that great stuff. Right, let's press on. My name is Alex Reed. I am the head of finance here at Norland, and I've got a few slides here to talk to you about fees, finance and bursaries. So on to the table on the slide. So fees for UK students for 22-23 will be £14,990. Fees for our international students will be £17,000, and their relevant fees, etc., are shown in brackets within the next few slides. So why do we cost more than a standard university? It's because you're studying for a degree in early years childcare and the prestigious Norland diploma, along with our value-added curriculum. All of this together is what will set you out as the best of the very best and give you direct access, quite literally, to a world of opportunity. So other than those tuition fees, we have a one-off lifelong support fee of £300 that goes towards your Norland care for the rest of your life. So that's whether you're working with children, bringing up your own children, or even caring for your own great or grandchildren. Your Norland family will always be here to support and encourage you. And that's no sales boast. We've been doing that for nearly 130 years. So you can see there that totally UK fees for 22-23 will be £15,290, and for international students in total it'll be £17,300. Remember, this is our third year that our tuition fees have been frozen. Fees are invoiced in thirds over the year and are due on the first day of term unless you're paying by direct debit to an agreed instalment plan, and more on that later. Fees for your successive years, so year 2 and year 3, are subject to annual review and may increase by up to 5% each year, or the rate of inflation if higher. And as Mandy said earlier, fees are only due for those first 3 years, and indeed in your 4th year, your newly qualified nanny year, there are no fees, and in fact we find you a position where you can earn around about £21,000 on average, as we saw earlier. Not bad at all. Once you're through your NQN year, you will qualify, and you will then have the opportunity to join our exclusive Norland agency, where you'll find access to the very best positions that the world can offer you, and more on those from Janet later on. So approximate costs, additional costs. Well, we have our uniform, as Mandy mentioned, and we estimate this costs about £1,000 or so over the 3 years, approximately £300 or so each year. But it clearly depends on how much you choose to buy. As Mandy has said, our uniform is iconic, and it professionalises and identifies the high standards of our nannies, and certainly makes getting ready in the morning a little bit easier, because no need to think about what you're going to wear today. As Mandy has said also earlier, we can arrange accommodation for you, and costs for this current year are £500 to £550, and check our website for projected costs for 22-23. Finally, for this slide, we have our Professional Association of Norlanders. So membership of that will cost about £100, and that will be payable at the start of your NQN year. Remember, that's your 4th year. This membership will provide students with a range of benefits, including discounts on CPD training, insurance, union membership, to name but a few. So next slide, please, Tilly. So this slide here is about student finance and instalments. So for UK students, our annual costs for 22-23 will be that £15,290 that I mentioned earlier. Our course attracts student loan financing of about £6,165, less if you're Northern Irish, meaning that after funding, the amount due will be £9,125, and that's requested termly in the shape in the right-hand column of the top table. The funding from student financing is lower than a standard university because Norland is an independent higher education provider. However, that is the only difference for UK students. Any maintenance funding that you may be able to obtain by going to a standard university, you can still get by coming to Norland. It's just that tuition fee funding that is different. The place to go for UK students is gov.uk/student finance. And as you can see, applications for funding can be made from February 2022, and we'll let you know when you can do that. It's also worth remembering that international students may not access UK student financing, and fees as per the left-hand column on the slide will be £17,300. So how can Norland help with your fees? If you see the second table, we offer a direct debit instalment option, spreading the cost of your fees over the year in a total of 8 instalments. Additionally, we work with a company called Future Finance, who are a private and commercial lender to students. They can provide funding to our students, though interest rates and terms will be less attractive than a government-backed scheme. And the place to go for that is norland.ac.uk/finance and bursaries. Some students will obtain their place and then they will defer for a year. That's quite a popular option, giving them potentially 15 months from leaving their school to further and finalise their financial arrangements. And some students will request funding from organisations that they may have volunteered with. That's always worth following up. Many students work whilst at Norland, and Norland will help you with this. More on Earn While You Learn coming up, but do remember it's a tough course, so time does need to be set aside for studying. And finally, we have our Emily Ward bursaries. So next slide, please. These are named after our founder and are available to both UK and international students for applicants without any HE qualification. These bursaries are part of Norland's widening participation agenda and are funded by our commercial activity. They are all means tested and based on the ability to pay, and everyone that's offered a place will automatically receive the bursary application forms. And most bursaries are worth between £1,000 to £2,000 towards your fees, though some are higher and may even bridge the whole £9,125 gap or even higher. And additional consideration is given to applications for male and non-binary students, underrepresented ethnicities, mature students and care leavers. And although Norland has a limited budget for such assistance, last year the average award to students in receipt of a bursary was £2,824, and actually 25% of all students received bursary assistance, so not bad. The deadline for receipt of those bursary applications is the 1st of April 2022. And that's enough from me. I'm going to hand over now to Janet, who will tell you about earning while you learn. Janet.
Thank you, Alex. So I'm now going to cheer you all up. You do remember that important point I made earlier. We are expensive, but we're expensive because we do 2 full-time courses at the same time. But here, I hope we've heard a little bit about our Emily Ward bursaries. We try to spread that out as much as possible. Some people do get a full bursary if possible, by the way, depending on their circumstances, but we tend to try and spread it out. But here, I'm going to tell you now a little bit about how you can earn while you learn. Now, it is important to just have a little caveat before I talk about this. This is a full-time course. Please don't think you can come to Norland, work part-time and just attend the odd lecture. It doesn't work like that. You have to have 85% attendance, for example, in order to progress. So it's very important that you are here when you need to be here. Having said all of that, we have a wonderful student job shop that's very popular. In fact, we cannot fulfill all the jobs that we get coming in. But have a look at some of this data. This is important data for you to know about, okay? So basically, just about every student is doing some part-time work. Now, that part-time work tends to be in evenings, weekends, and of course, during those important holidays. We have some lovely collaborations with local and, by the way, international companies that can place you abroad. I can't guarantee that will be in your home country if you're an international student, but we have collaborations with things like Camp America, something called Helping Hands that places people to support families who go abroad to Europe, for example, or perhaps to the Bahamas or Bermuda and so on. So there are lots and lots of opportunities, and we try to channel that for you. And there's some extra fun facts about some of the places that they have worked, for example, both in England and there's some examples there in Europe. But there are also examples of international. Of course, that data has been affected by COVID most recently, obviously, but hopefully with things opening up again, that will change. Now, the minimum wage has actually changed very recently in England, but that's your average hourly rate, which isn't bad. So imagine you'll be adding more experience to your CV, and you'll be getting a decent wage, and you won't have to work late nights necessarily in a pub, slaving away as a waiter. You'll be doing a job you absolutely love. So that's just a message of hope, I think, to perhaps counterbalance the cost of the course. Next slide, please. But most importantly, what we particularly want to tell you about is what happens when you leave. So unlike any other HEI probably in the world, we have our own in-house employment agency called the Norland Agency. And what that means is we have clients who come to us saying, please, can I have a Norland nanny? We only place our own graduates. We're not just a sort of free for all for anyone, only our top-notch Norland nannies. And so basically, we have this whole process where you can sort of come along to Norland as a student, have this wonderful experience that you just hear, and you will be placed in employment immediately, as you've also just heard. But if you finish your NQ1 job or you stay just for a few years with your NQN family, we're here to carry on that job seeking process for you. So right now, Norland actually has 11 jobs, by the way, for every Norlander seeking work as a Norland nanny. A little bit more about some of those stats later, but that's incredible, isn't it? And I'll just give you a little personal anecdote here. My son has graduated with a first-class linguistics degree from one of the top 5 universities in the country. And the only job he's been able to find is not much more than minimum wage. So there you go. He should have come to Norland, but never mind. So as you can see, we also have a very vibrant alumni community. We want to stay in touch with you. We're about to set up a professional association. We'll offer you free refresher courses every 3 years for that, for example. And we continue to give you that important advice about insurance, about contracts. We have our own template contracts, for example, that we make available. We can sort out your DBS checks and so on and so forth. So we do so much more than any other university does. We you know, you won't get this kind of offer anywhere else. But let's just really illustrate how powerful your earning potential is in the next slide. What we've basically done is we've taken some data that's published based on salaries, by the way, that are average about 50 to 60 hours. Now, that's a long week, but you talk to some doctors and you talk to some lawyers and some accountants, they're earning they're working the same number of hours. So it is a long hour job. The average actually can be as low as 45. Sorry, not the average, the minimum is about 45, but it can go up to about 60 hours. It's a long day for you, but oh wow, look at what you earn for doing a job you love. So within a year, our average salary overall is about 40,000 and so on. Now they will vary, of course, and don't raise your expectations too high, but have a look at this. We actually have got a job right now that's 120,000. That's quite rare though, so don't get too excited here. You'll have to work very hard for that. But again, you're doing something you love, which is incredible. So just have a look at these salaries. After 5 to 10 years, these are the salaries that you'll be earning, depending, of course, if it's daily or live-in and so on. But just say you have a live-in. You might earn a little bit less than someone who's going in every day, but you're not paying any rent and you haven't got all those additional expenses. So that's something to bear in mind. That really is after tax cash in your pocket. Next slide, please. So here's another, if you're not convinced, compare your average salary. These are taken from government data. The most recent data we have is from 2018, so it's a few years old, but that's the most recent data available. You have a look at how your salaries compare to even medicine and dentistry. This is after 1 year of graduating. So in the year 2018 to 2019, the average salary, as I just mentioned, was 42,000. That is better than a doctor or a dentist will be earning after 1 year. They might eventually overtake you, but look at this. Law, look at that. Engineering, look at that. Economics degrees, look at that. Almost double you are earning. And in fact, just the average right now is still 40 to 45,000 after 1 year of graduating. That's after your NQN year, by the way. So those are powerful figures. And this is what I'm talking about in terms of that return on the investment. And let me bring in the little personal anecdote again. My son's degree cost about 60,000 in total because he had a year abroad and he was based in London where his rent was nearly £1,000 a month as a student. Extraordinary. So his degree still costs more than a Norland degree, but he's not necessarily anywhere in a position to be earning that much money. But don't worry, I'm not bitter, because I'm excited, because I know that the students at Norland, our students, have that potential. So a final little slide on that note. Some more fun statistics. That's the average salary that I've talked about. That was in 1920, by the way, and I've just told you that just literally last week I was with the agency team and they told me they had 11 jobs for every Norlander seeking. We haven't calculated those officially, and that's why we've not put them on the slide right now, but that's what the figure is, 11. That's incredible. So you really are in a powerful position. The supply for 130 years has always been less than the demand. And in this post-COVID world, with the world economy as it is, that's very reassuring. So final slide, I do hope that everything that we've been saying to you, next slide, sorry, not the final slide. It is very important that you do understand that we really are value for money, that 100% employability is a huge attraction, I hope, and helps to counter a little bit the cost of coming to Norland and so on. So you can find out a bit more. You can download a copy of that if you want to find out more. Don't forget, as I said in the beginning, we're part of a charity. We're owned by a charity. It's all not for profit. We're not trying to get loads of money from you to make a profit. We are literally asking you to pay for the course that we provide, or the 2 courses that we provide. So I hope that's helped to balance things out a little bit for you. Now, most importantly, the highlight of the morning is you are now about to hear from one of our very own students who is in her 3rd year and is also one of our international students as well. Over to you, Jessica.
Cool. Hi everyone, my name is Jessica and I am a 3rd year student at Norland. I grew up in South Africa with my mom, dad, brother and sister. I lived over in South Africa for 18 years, and then when I finished school, after a lot of deliberation and confusion, I kind of came to the conclusion that I wasn't quite ready to go to university. And that's when I made the decision to go and explore a new country, which became England. So I moved over not knowing very much or really anyone. And it was quite intimidating, to say in the least. But pretty soon I turned my focus to, okay, what am I going to do with my time? I knew about Norland from the documentary and instantly fell in love with the idea of it. So I decided to apply. I couldn't believe it when I got in. However, it wasn't completely smooth sailing from there. As an international student, I had to have lived in the country for 3 years before I was eligible for a student loan. I know that this is no longer the case for international students. I know like the application process has changed slightly since I applied. But at the time of my application, I looked at this as a major setback. But actually, during those 3 years, I got to save up a lot of money, which I could put towards my studies. I traveled and went to America and worked over there for 2 summers. I met some amazing people and I got to know myself a little bit. This all meant, though, that by the time I was ready to start at Norland, I was 21 years old. Right, next slide, please. So one of my biggest concerns about coming to Norland was that I was 21 and I was going to be joining alongside a lot of 18-year-olds. I was worried I was going to be the odd one out and I wouldn't be able to relate to anyone. But almost instantly, I realized that meeting and kind of getting to know these people had nothing at all to do with how old we were. So whether you're an 18-year-old fresh out of school or you're 21 like me, the thing that ties you together is that you're a Norland student in that moment and you're going through the same experience. Funny enough, my best friend was one of the youngest in our set. And the same best friend is the one I currently live with alongside our other friend. And we live probably a 15-minute walk from Norland, 15 minutes from the center of town, and only probably about like 30 seconds from our gym. So we never have an excuse not to go. But if you do enjoy keeping fit, then Bath has loads of gyms, a lot of which have student memberships. You can also join the Bath Spa Student Union, which I know has been mentioned previously. I did hockey with them in my first year, which was so fun. And it was a really nice way of getting to meet people outside of Norland. And then just being a student in Bath in general, it's just a really lovely place to be. It's as beautiful as they say. It's really safe and quiet and small, but also has a lot going on. And then it's also only 10-minute train journey from Bristol, which is another one of my favorite cities. Cool, next slide, please. So funding my studies. So before I started, I considered all of my options in terms of funding my studies, and it was definitely a concern for me. But now in the midst of my studies, I have a huge amount of support. I have a student loan, a maintenance loan, and an Emily Ward bursary. And then I also earn money on the side through school pickup jobs and nannying jobs, which there are so many of these available for Norland students, so you never have to worry about that. And then recently, I've also started working for Norland as a student ambassador on tap, which I will speak about in more detail in a second. Cool, so just a little bit of words of wisdom and kind of advice that I think I would give to my 18-year-old self. Looking back, is that I tell her not to worry if things take a little bit of time or kind of the path is diverted. Sometimes it's the moments in between the big things that shape who you are as a person. Just make the most of every situation, because you really never know what's going to come of it. So just have a good time with whatever you do. Next slide, please. Cool. So this is TAP. This is a platform that Norland have recently launched onto, whereby prospective students can chat to current students, including myself. You can ask anything from what life is like as a Norland student to advice on applications. We also post content on platforms, so you can kind of get an insight into what we get up to as Norland students. So yeah, feel free to pop onto there and get chatting. I am now going to hand back over to Mandy.
Thank you, Jess. So I'm aware that we're running out of time rapidly for this presentation, so I hope you're all still okay to bear with us. I'll go through this next slide as quickly as possible. We hope we've interested you enough to want to apply if you haven't already. So on here, all this information is on the website, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. But you can see that 96 UCAS points is our minimum entry requirement, which is equivalent in the UK to 3 Cs at A level. We also take BTEC courses, cash early years courses, a variety of many other qualifications. So if you're not sure about your qualification, or if you're an international student, please do email us at admissions and give us your particular qualifications, and we'll tell you what you need to get. You have to apply through UCAS. You can't apply directly to Norland, but there is only one Norland on UCAS, and there is only one course available at Norland. So the information is very easy to find using the search facility. And as part of your application, you do have to write a personal statement. And we always get asked, what should I put in my personal statement to make me stand out from everyone else? And it's a hard question to answer, because actually we want your personal statements to tell us about you. who you are, what are your experiences, why do you want to work with children? What is it in it for you? What is it about working with children that means that it's the only thing you want to do with the rest of your life? We can teach you everything that you need to know in order to be the best nanny and the best early years practitioner for those children and their families. What we can't teach you is that absolute passion and commitment to know that this is all you want to do with your life. It's hard work working with young children. It's hard emotionally, it's hard physically. You have to have that complete and utter passion and commitment for it to bring you through those hard times, and to make you understand the importance of your role in defining the next generation, in working with a child or some children and a family and helping them to reach their full potential. There is no greater reward, there is no greater job than being responsible for shaping and nurturing a young child and supporting their family. And if you really believe that, and if you know that that is the only thing you want to do, why would you go anywhere else than Norland? Because this is where you're going to learn how to do it to the very highest level, and be rewarded financially for it as well once you've qualified. So that's the sort of thing we want to see in your personal statement. Passion, commitment, enthusiasm. This is the only thing you want to do, and Norland is the only place you want to do it. Now, I know when you write your personal statement, you will have to probably, if you're applying to more than one place, you will probably have to make it a little bit more generic than that. You probably won't want to mention Norland all the way through if you're applying elsewhere, because they probably won't offer you a place. But what you can do is email us in a Norland personal statement. So write your generic one and then email into admissions your own tailored personal statement that really outlines why you want to come to Norland and why you're the best person for us to choose to be among our next set of students. Once we've had your application, we'll assess it to make sure that you're predicted to meet the entry requirements if you don't already, and we'll then offer you an interview. Everybody is interviewed, so it doesn't matter if you're an international student or a home student, you will be expected to attend an interview. We can offer Zoom interviews if Zoom interviews if you're unable to get to Norland, but we do strongly recommend that you try and come to us in person and meet us and and look around the building and meet other students who are coming for interview. We try to keep it as low-key as possible, so please don't worry about it, but we do need to know who you are and why you want to be here. We also need to know that you understand that coming to Norland is different, and that you're prepared to make that commitment and work as hard as you're going to need to. We will then make offers based on that interview. Conditional offers will be made to people who haven't yet met the entry requirements. Unconditional offers will be made to people who have met the entry requirements already. And I've already talked to you a little bit about first year accommodation, so I won't go into that anymore. Any more information you need about admissions, either pop a question in the Q&A bar now, or have a look on our website, or email us, and we're very willing to answer any questions. I'm now going to hand over to Claire, who's got some specific information for international applicants.
Hi everybody, my name's Claire Hutton and I'm the Student Records Data and International Student Manager for Norland. So I'm just going to run through some key points that you should start thinking about now if you are considering becoming an international student with us. And of course, I've already seen there's some questions for me to answer later, which is great. It's wonderful to have so many international people interested in Norland. So to begin with, firstly, if you are a resident of a country outside of the UK or Ireland, or you do not have EU settlement scheme status, that's hard to say, you will need a visa to study at Norland. And the type of visa you will need is called a student visa. And you do need a sponsor to apply for this type of visa, and Norland will be your sponsor. The first thing you should think about is that you will need to meet all the usual conditions of entry. So admissions is going to be your first port of call, because probably the most important thing I would say is that we make sure that Norland is right for you and that you are right for Norland. So admissions is going to be your first port of call there. If you don't have UK qualifications, that's not a problem. We can check these for you. The best way to do this is to email admissions with the qualifications you currently have, and then we can check that they're equivalent to what we need from you to be able to apply to us. One extra qualification you will need is a CELT. This is called a Secure English Language Test. And the type of CELT that we accept at admissions is the IELTS for UK VI Academic. and you need to have an overall band of 6.0 with no less than 6 in each component skill, or the equivalent here. And now something to bear in mind is that we are currently a probationary sponsor. We were granted our sponsor license in April 2021, so just this April just gone. So there are some slight restrictions on your stay with us for a little while, for 4 years at least. So whilst you're with us, unfortunately, you will not be able to work in the UK, and this does include voluntary work. You can work in your vacation time in your home country. You can work as much as you like in your vacation time in your home country, or indeed in other countries if you have the right work permissions to work there. But you can't work here in the UK whilst you're with us on that visa, I'm afraid. Now, work placements are a slightly different thing. You are allowed to join work placements, but they are slightly restricted to 33% of your course. So there is part of your placement you will need to complete before you come to Norland in your home country. This is 4 weeks, so 4 weeks of your placement you'll need to do before you come to Norland, but our placement team can help you with that, and we have had one student do this already, and it's been problem-free. And there is, during your first trimester, you will have to do part of your work placement. You will have to do a virtual work placement, but that's it. That's the only difference. The rest of the time you will join placements as a normal Norland student would. You will also have a dedicated international student manager. That's me, in case you haven't guessed, who will support and guide you through. So yeah, I'm here to help you through this process and answer any questions you have. So we're in this together, don't worry. And there are something to bear in mind, there are some additional fees that we need to pay. You do need to pay to apply for the visa, and that's currently £348, and you'll also need to pay a healthcare surcharge of £470 per year. This does, though, give you full access to the NHS in the same way a UK resident, so I have access to the NHS, which does represent excellent value for money, in my opinion. I will be around for the Q&A afterwards, of course, as I see there are more questions, and happy to answer those. But for now, I will pass on to Janet. Thank you.
Hello again. So back to me. We're just about done, you'll be glad to hear, or perhaps sad to hear. Just to give you a heads up, we are going to answer those questions in just a moment that you've been asking. So thank you for putting those in. But just to give you, to let you know some things coming up that you might be interested in looking at. We've got a Norland Unwrapped, that's online again. It's just for an hour, but you'll be able to dig a bit deeper, ask some more specific questions and hear from some more people. If you want to come and visit us and have a look around, we've got another open day in May where it's in person, so you can actually come to the campus and have a look around. I know that was one of the questions, and you can book all of these via those links there. Also, hot off the press, we've just launched our competition, and what will happen is you'll be able to come and win a weekend for free in Bath, which will be based around our open day in May. So if you're in your final years also of school and want to enter that competition, do come along. You'll see we're just asking you to do something, and then the winner wins a weekend in Bath. So just to give you a heads up on that. So now I'm going to hand over to Ike. Now, not in person, we're going to watch a little video about one of our current students. He's also in our third year. And then straight after that, we'll go into Q&A. And as soon as they're over, we'll do a final farewell. So here's over to Ike to hear more from what students have to say about their story.
My name's Ike. I'm from Set 43. I was adopted from Vietnam, and I have 3 sisters who are also adopted, and we all grew up in Brighton. So my passion for working with children has come from my parents and seeing them raise us. And the fact that we all came from such different backgrounds and had such different needs, it showed me that it was a choice for her to love and to care for us. And that's the same with being a nanny. You know, you accept someone for who they are, and you just want to do everything you can to meet their needs. Before Norland, I was doing my cash level 3 course. And on the course, we had loads of placements ranging from special needs schools to forest schools, loads of nurseries. And that really gave me the passion because it was the first-hand experiences that gave me the drive to do it. I chose Norland because I've always wanted a career in early years. And Norland to me was the highest point in childcare education that I could go. I just think it's so cool that you could be doing sewing and cooking whilst be doing amazing lectures about child psychology and then being able to put it into practice and seeing it all come to life is just something exciting for me. Whilst being at Norland, I've kind of realised that there isn't actually that much difference being a male, and that you can pretty much do anything that a female can. I mean, you have no limitations. So my main worries before coming to Norland were mainly around fitting in. But when I joined, there were 3 other guys in the course, so that helped a lot. But then when you talk to everyone, you kind of realise that you've all got the same passions, you've all got the same drives, and you really do start feeling a part of the family as soon as you start. Some of my highlights at Norland have been the food and nutrition lessons, because they give us a range of recipes that are also very handy to use when you're working with children and living in. It's also great because they provide lots of nutritional information about the different meals we're cooking. And then on the other side, I love learning in the lectures, and I love that we can come into the nursery and they let us just kind of do our thing and kind of create these amazing environments that then we can take into practice and watch it all come to life. So when I started at Norland, I really had no idea how in-depth all the lectures were going to be. And you really do learn about everything to do with child development. And it's really interesting to see that all the theory that you learn in lectures has a purpose. And when you are doing your practice, it's like, oh, I learned this from this lecture, and you know, it's all coming to life now, and it's actually making an impact on the child. After nannying for many years, I hope to open up a cooking school for children. And I think it'd be really cool to even do baby cooking, and then all the way up to kind of at the end of year 6 age, and just really teach them about nutrition and how cooking and eating can be a really enjoyable moment. My ambitions for after Norland are to travel, as I just love to travel, and Norland really gives you those opportunities to be international and work pretty much wherever you want. That it really is a passport to anywhere in the world that you want to work. My name's Ike.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for staying with us. I hope you enjoyed our presentation this morning. So we're going to start the Q&A. We've got questions coming in already, so that's fantastic. Just to reiterate, your camera is off, your microphone is muted, so please don't worry about that. As I said, you can ask the questions via the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom screen. And as Sue and Mandy obviously said earlier on, if you are unsure about your qualifications and you want to have a chat with admissions and whether they actually meet our criteria, it's always best to check with the admissions direct. So you can email them directly on their email address and they'll be able to answer those questions for you. So I am going to crack on. So I hope you can stay with us for the next hour or so. And we'll go through the questions that we've got coming. We'll try and get through as many as possible. So we've got wonderful staff and students that are here ready to answer your questions. And so we'll start at the very beginning, if that's okay. So from Sue, who's working in our admissions department, our first question is for you, if that's okay, Sue.
Yes,
so,
fine.
Hiya. I know Mandy spoke earlier about obviously accommodation, and that's really quite an important question for a lot of our students. So I wondered if you could just explain the process again for first year students when they're looking at accommodation.
Yes, of course. Thanks, Kate. I'm Sue. We're in admissions with Becca, my colleague. So basically we can arrange accommodation for first years if requested. You don't have to take us up on that. And likewise, if you live locally already, then there's no real need there. However, we do sort of recommend that you live in a household with other first years because you can all support each other, and that seems in our experience to work really, really well. You'll get an accommodation request form once we've made an offer to you. And on there, you can say, yes, I'd like accommodation. I prefer a quiet house or a lively house, and we'll try and meet those needs if we can. We'll meet those requests. And in general, it seems to work really well. So we basically thoroughly recommend it.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Sue. This one is for Debbie, and there's another question as well. So I'm going to link the two together, if that's okay. Is there an option to just take the diploma or just the degree? So if they already have an early years qualification, are they able to take one and not the other? Could you explain how that works?
Yeah, so when you come to Norland, you do study for your degree and diploma. We can't separate them out. They're interweaved together, as I've already described. So no, you have to do both.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Kate, can I just step in there as well? Just to say that if you do have higher education qualifications in early years, we may be able to give you credit for some of the things that you've already got. We couldn't give you credit for your whole degree because our academic regulations won't allow us to do that, but we may be able to accept some of your modules if they match closely enough to modules that we would teach. But we'd need to talk to you on an individual basis about that and just see what you've already got in terms of modules and qualifications and how well it matches.
Great, thank you, Mandy. This one is for Wendy. So one of the questions we have is, I do suffer from anxiety. Would this be a barrier for me at Norland?
No, absolutely not. We understand that people have all sorts of different issues and challenges that can come and go, and anxiety is something that lots of people struggle with. Within student support, we can we try to be as available as much as we can. So if it comes to a head, we're kind of there to help support you with that. Also, I offer brief psychological therapy, so that's something that I'm really happy to work with people on. Sometimes we can help support people access help from other places as well. So no, there's loads and loads of options, and also to be really clear, there's a place within the application form where you might be asked to share those things, and that absolutely would not count against you in terms of your application. And in fact, it's helpful for us to know in advance so we can make sure that we get in touch with you early on and can just check in with you and check that you get the support that you need. So absolutely, please do not be put off if you feel that's you or any other kind of similar issues.
Thank you, Wendy. Another member of our student support team, Mog. So I have another question. I'm dyslexic. What sort of support would I get at Norland? I've heard I need a DSA. What is that?
Okay, I think it's best to do this in two parts. So the support that we offer for people with dyslexia is that we will have one-to-one meeting at the beginning to establish exactly what that situation is, what the level of that dyslexia is. And we can give extra time for students who require it for written assessments and for exams. We can also help with the kind of structuring that students might require for helping them to put their essays and things together. The second part really for DSA, so DSA stands for Disability Students Allowance, Disabled Students Allowance, sorry, and it is really a good thing to have, but it's not a necessary thing. I have met lots of students this year who do have dyslexia and they haven't applied for any extra funding. But the thing about DSA is that when you apply for this, it's a government funded thing. You can have access to computer software that helps with dyslexia and helps you to cope with your reading and writing and studying. And you can also have external support workers. You get so many hours a year, and they are there to help with the extra bit of support that you might require in terms of proofreading. We do proofreading, but we only do it up to 10% of your completed piece of work. So it gives you a great deal more support than you might have, and it is maybe a good thing. One thing I would say to any prospective student is, once you know you have definitely got a place on our course, it is a good idea to start looking at the government site for DSA 1 form and get yourself allocated that bit of support from them if you're going to do that. And it's not a compulsory thing, but if you choose to do it, then try and do it early, because like all these things, it can take a wee while to actually process paperwork, and there'll be lots and lots of students applying. I hope that helps.
That's lovely. Thank you very much, Morg. Really appreciate that. So Alex, all important finance. When shall I apply for a student loan if I'm looking to start in September 2022?
That's a good question, Kate. So when our course goes live at UCAS, which is expected to be around about February 2022, and we will let prospective students know when that time is, but we expect that to be about February 2022.
Lovely, thank you. And now we have Elspeth in our NQN team. And Elspeth, I've got a question for you regarding the NQN year. Can you choose where you want to spend your NQN year? And I'm going to link this into another question, is how will I be supported during that year as well?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Elspeth, the newly qualified nanny manager, and hopefully everyone has figured out that when we talk about NQN, it stands for newly qualified nanny. Yeah, so you can do your NQN year in England or Wales. So you can choose, and we have, as Mandy said, over 460 jobs, and they are all over the country. They tend to be generally in London. A lot of them will be in London, but we have many that are in more rural locations or other cities in England and Wales. You will be supported by a dedicated NQN team. We are made up of quite a number of Norland nannies ourselves. So I'm a Norland nanny myself, and we call ourselves NQN consultants, and we support you through that process. We'll support with your childcare questions, obviously we also need to assess you because it is an assessed year. And hopefully your employers will also be supportive of the process because they specifically sign up to have an NQN, so they'll be aware that you still need support and encouragement throughout that year. We also have 2 recruiters in the team, and they can also help with some of your CV questions or recruitment type questions as well.
Thank you, Elspeth. That's really helpful. This is for Janet in her agency alumni hat. What type of jobs can you expect to receive in your first year after you qualified as a Norland nanny?
Yeah, so I'm actually standing in for this question for Julia, who is the head of agency and alumni, and herself another Norlander. So basically, the Norland agency has both temporary and permanent places available. They might be more specialist, so you can go on to do a specialist maternity qualification. So we might place you as a maternity nurse, for example. We have jobs all over the world. And why we're so excited about international students is that, you know, we have got jobs in other countries, and we can't guarantee we'll be able to put you in your own country, but certainly there are opportunities there. So all the jobs we fulfill in the Norland agency are to be nannies of some kind or another, but they vary in terms of how many children, the age of the children. Some stay for 20 years, some only stay a few years. And I know one of the questions was about what other career opportunities there are. And there are many. You heard Ike talk about some of his future ambitions there. Many of our graduates go on to do many other things. Remember, you've got a degree. Some go on to become specialist pediatric nurses or teachers, special needs, speech and language therapy. So they go on to do further training, having worked perhaps for 10 years as a nanny, saved up paid off their debts, and saved up lots of money, and go on to do many other things. We've got many who've opened their own nurseries, their own companies, baby food company, a baby clothing company. So there are actually a wealth of opportunities. And in fact, it's our 130th year next year, and we're going to be publishing something along the lines of 130 career pathways, because there's so many. So one of the questions was, will I have to stay a nanny my whole life? Nope. You might want to stop and have your own family. Perhaps you want to work part-time. There are part-time nanny positions, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of flexibility, but it really is a lifelong career, because you can come back. Perhaps, you know, you've sort of been a nanny for 10 years, you've had your own family, you've gone on to do something else, perhaps become a teacher, and then you've retired, but you still want to do something, still want to keep busy, and you could come back. We've got Norlanders in their 70s doing maternity nursing, temporary jobs, for example, getting paid very well, as well. So, you know, it really is a lifelong career if that's what you want to do.
Lovely, thank you, Janet. This one is for Claire. This is a question from an international student. Will I be able to do my newly qualified year in the UK?
The short answer is yes, yes you will. So you may have heard me mention earlier that we're currently a probationary sponsor because we were granted our license in this April just gone. That status is valid for 4 years. So from April 2025, if you're in your final year then, due to go on your NQN when you finish in June, then yes, you will be able to do your NQN year here in the UK.
Thank you, Claire. Mandy, this is for you. This is regarding, obviously, the food and nutrition. Quite a specific question. I'm a vegan. Do I have to cook meat in food and nutrition?
Okay, so you will go on to work with a wide range of families who have a wide range of dietary requests for their children. Some may be vegan, but others, many others won't be. So our job is to prepare you for the best possible career path and the best possible career opportunities. So if you really want to restrict your job opportunities to only working with those children who will eat vegan food, that's going to be quite difficult for you. So our strong encouragement will be for you to fully participate in all of the food and nutrition sessions in order to learn a wide variety of skills and cook a wide range of different types of food.
Thank you, Mandy. Janet, this is to you. How many students are in a year group? So what are the class sizes? But obviously Norland, but one of the questions we've had is about Norland being oversubscribed. So just really want to explain how you choose the students, how many students you get each year and how many applications we receive.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice, simple response to that question. We recruit about 100 or so students a year. We do have more people applying than we have places, and it's first come, first served. So the sooner you get your application in, if we think you're going to make a brilliant Norland nanny, we'll offer that place to you. We don't hang around for several months and decide right at the end. If we think you're good enough, you're good enough. So the sooner you get that application in, the better. So whilst we are oversubscribed, don't let that put you off. And as I said, the sooner you get it in. What that means, though, in terms of class sizes, is that they're quite small. In fact, what we do is we divide you into groups. You have a practical teaching group where there's about 20. So that's really nice and cozy, small classes. So you can get that real kind of one-to-one input when necessary. And if you're doing the degree, for example, lecture, that would typically be about 25 students in your class. So again, quite small and cozy. In fact, our ratios, not just for student support, which Mandy mentioned, but our ratios of staff to student are the equivalent of what you would get at Oxford or Cambridge. So good ratios.
Thank you very much, Janet. Jessica, this is for you. And I know that your signal's a bit jerky and it's popping in and out. So I will ask this question. So I hope you can hear me okay.
Okay.
Fantastic. Do you have any experience of working with children before starting at Norland?
Yes, so I had a little bit of like babysitting experience. I did some volunteer work in a nursery as well. I think any kind of childcare experience that you can get before you come to Norland or apply to Norland is always going to be valuable. So definitely, if you get the opportunity to get experience, then couldn't recommend it enough.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jessica. Okay.
Sorry, was my connection clear there?
Yes, it was. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so we have another question for Sue, and this is about the type of subjects people are obviously checking to see whether they can apply. So one of the questions is, what was the best subjects to study at A-level?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So we basically will accept any subject at A-level as long as you get the correct grades. However, if you're looking for something that's going to make it easier for you when you get to Norland, academic subjects are obviously good because that will support you in the academic component of the degree. If you're going to get more specific than that, I would say psychology, sociology, possibly English language, because it's got a component of language development in it. And those sort of subjects would stand you in good stead for sure.
Thank you, Sue. Debbie, this is for you. What assessment methods do you use?
Okay, so we have a variety of assessment methods because we want all students to be successful. And we know that some students will find writing essays really difficult. So, of course, we have to have essays. This is an academic course. It's the same level as any degree you'd find anywhere else. But as well as essays, we'll have presentations, posters, vivas where you have a conversation and more of a dialogue base. So we have a whole range of different assessment types. Obviously for food and nutrition and sewing, you're actually creating something within a time scale, but you'll know what the parameters of that would be. But we have a whole variety. It's not just essays.
Thank you, Debbie. Alex, we've got quite a lot of questions about bursaries, in particular about international students gaining or whether they're eligible for Emily Ward bursaries. I wondered if you could just go through very briefly again how the bursary works with regards to international, of course, UK students as well.
Lovely, that's a good question. Okay, no problem, Kate. So Norland will support our students with our Emily Ward bursaries. Remember that Emily Ward was our founder. And those bursaries are funded by our commercial activities. And UK students, as well as international students, are able to apply for those bursaries. Everybody can apply. Please apply. Everybody who is sent a conditional or an unconditional offer will be sent the bursary forms, and you are highly encouraged to apply. All bursaries are based on ability to pay, so they are means tested. So what we'll do, we will invite parents or carers to complete a financial sort of statement that effectively sort of describes earnings in a particular over a particular time, a particular tax year. So those will be sent back into the college along with a sort of a supporting statement about why you want to be a Norland nanny and why you require some assistance. We then have a committee which will then meet and go through all of those applications, whether you're UK students or international students. We will go through all of those and then we will award those bursaries. So really they are based on ability to pay, they are means tested, and then additional consideration is given to male and non-binary students, students from underrepresented ethnicities, mature students, and for us, a mature student is somebody who is over 21 years or older at the time of course commencement, or students that are care leavers. So you are warmly encouraged to make that application into Norland. The majority of those bursaries are worth between £1,000 to £2,000, but some can be considerably higher. Some can be up to £9,000 or even higher for international students. If students do have particular questions about bursaries, I mean, all of the contact details are on our website, so please do get in contact with me or anyone from my team, and I will do my bestest to help you. Over.
Can I also add to that, for international students as well, it's worth keeping an eye on websites like English UK and UK CISA, which is UKCISA, which is UK Council for International Student Affairs, because they do occasionally mention on their websites independent scholarships that you might be eligible to apply for. So it's worth keeping an eye on there for international students.
Thank you both. That was really helpful. I hope that answered some of the questions that have been coming in this morning. Elspeth, this is for you. How long after graduating do you have to start your NQN year?
Yeah, sure. So the majority of people do start their NQN year straight after the 3 years of study, but you have 8 years in which to complete your Norland diploma from the start of your training. So if you were to start next September, you would have 8 years to complete your NQN year, so quite a long time. So you could go and do something else for a year and come back. The only thing I would say is, of course, we might need you to do some refresher training, or something like that if you've gone away for a long period of time. We just need to make sure that you're still current, but there is a possibility to do something else in between study and NQN year.
Thank you, Elspeth. Janet, this is for you. Can I stay with my NQN family after I qualify, and how does the contract change?
Yeah, good question as well. All these questions are really good and relevant. Yes, you can, is the answer. In fact, we gently encourage you to do so for the sake of the children, so that they have that consistency and care. The average is usually about 3 years that people stay with their NQN family. By that time, children are starting to go into nursery and the family may no longer need you. However, having said that, as you'll know, some quite well-known nannies that you might have seen featured in the media stay much longer. But there's no obligation. Some leave after a year for different reasons and circumstances. And then, as I say, we can straight away put you into another job. So I hope that answers that question, that you don't need to stay. We gently encourage you to do so.
Thank you very much, Janet. Mandy, this is for you with regards to how students find out about unconditional offers and when they find out. Would you be able to explain how that works with regards to offers?
Yes, so Janet mentioned earlier that we tend to make our decisions quite quickly. We know this is quite a stressful time for you, and that you will just want to know whether or not you've got a place that you can make your decisions. We generally interview on a Friday, and we would aim to make decisions about those interviews the following week. So by the end of the following Friday, you generally should have heard from us. If you haven't heard from us, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It just means that maybe we've had extra number of interviews and it's taking us a little while to get through them. As I say, we'll make the decisions as quickly as we possibly can. Just a word on that though, and this reiterates what Janet said earlier. The earlier you get your application in, the more chances you have of getting in, because we start in September with 100 places and then start making those offers. So we've already had one interview day. We've got another interview day coming up next week, and I think another one before the end of November. So each time we have those interview days, we are offering more and more of our places away. One of the conditions of being a member of UCAS is that we still have to have places available up until the middle of January. So if you apply by the middle of January, we will definitely still have places available, but that might just be 3 or 4 places available. Whereas if you apply earlier, there are more places available. After the 15th of January, if your application is received after that point, and we have already got enough applications, we can close the course. And it may be that then you are not able to attend Norland this year. You might have to wait for the following year. So the short answer is apply as quickly as you can, and we'll let you know as quickly as we can.
Brilliant, thanks, Mandy. Okay, this is a question for Claire from an international perspective. What evidence will I need to have for when I apply for my visa?
Right, so it's quite a paperwork heavy process, but we love a bit of admin, so I'm here to help with that. So just off the top of my head, you're going to need your passport and any other immigration documents you have, evidence of your English language ability, so that CELT I talked about earlier. So you're going to need documentary evidence of all your qualifications, so certificates. You're going to need your certificates. You're also going to need details of your UK immigration history. Now, when you do apply, I will send you something called a CAS questionnaire, and I will ask you all of these questions that we're going to need to know to fill in your CAS, which is called Confirmation of Acceptance for Studies, which is the key bit of paperwork you're going to get from us that you'll need to apply for your visa. And I will ask that question there, so because those details are important. For example, if you've worked in the UK before, if you've studied in the UK before, UKVI will be looking at that, so we'll need to know about that too. You'll need things like details of any criminal convictions in the UK or elsewhere. And you're also going to need bank statements. So UKVI might ask you for financial evidence that you have enough funds to cover your tuition fee or maintenance. So you're going to need that information ready too. But of course, there's lots of other things to consider. But during this process, I will be on hand and I will make sure you have all that information ready before you do your visa application. Okay.
Claire is definitely the one-stop shop, aren't you, Claire?
Absolutely. Throw the questions at me.
Fantastic. I do have a question for Wendy, if that's okay, Wendy. I'm moving about a bit here. And it's really with regards to, are there any additional cost for providing SEND support?
No, certainly not. We work to give a good level of support within the college. If you have particular SEN needs, then you might want to consider applying for disabled student allowance that Mog mentioned earlier on. That is something that's not available for international students. Because that's a UK funded thing. If you are an international student and you feel that you've got particular needs, we would really, really encourage you to get in touch with us so we can understand that and we can have a conversation about what you feel that you need and how we can help, and just make sure that you have the right support in place. So we can have that conversation anytime before you apply, after you apply, once you get here. But certainly in terms of what the college provides, that is included within the fees that you are paying for your course. Yeah, I think if you've got any individual, if you want to follow up, if I haven't answered that enough, then please do get in touch with us.
That's lovely. Thank you, Wendy. Janet, this is for you, and this is regarding the uniform, really. So a kind of an overview of, you know, what expectations are on the uniform, but also what types of different uniform we also have as well. Would you be able to explain that a little bit more, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the uniform is very symbolic. It's about putting on that sort of professional veneer and becoming all that you can be as a Norland nanny. So we have retained that tradition. We don't expect you to wear corsets anymore, as they did back in the day. But hot off the press, we're delighted to announce we now have a gender neutral uniform. So you do not have to wear a dress if you're a girl, or you do not have to wear trousers if you're a boy. If you're perhaps non-binary, you can choose either. We have the formal uniform, which you tend to wear for your degree lectures. And then we also have a much more suitable practical uniform, which is trousers and polo shirt and so on. So the practical uniform you'll use for your sewing, your F&N, your placements, and so on. So we are trying to ensure that we have a uniform that kind of reflects the 21st century, but at the same time retains that heritage. And students actually want to wear the uniform. It's often one of the reasons they come here, to be honest. So, but if you don't want to wear the uniform, perhaps this is not the place for you. But if you want to wear it because you know what it represents, 130 years of excellence that will make you elite, but not elitist. Remember, we're very inclusive here at Norland, but it will make you one of the elite Norland nannies that is so sought after, as we explained.
Thank you, Janet. If I could just follow that up with regards to once they've graduated, how do they wear their uniforms when they're working with their families once they've graduated?
Yeah, that's a key point. I think in the old days, yes, they did. Certainly right back in the day, they did. But actually, interestingly, the vast majority do not. In fact, one of the reasons they don't is because, of course, they're very visible. Just like Mandy explained, you're very visible as a student in Bath. So no, we don't. And in fact, we start to prepare you for that in your employment weeks, where you no longer have to wear the uniform, you wear your own clothes. So it does depend on the household and the family, but the vast majority do not wish you to wear your uniform, particularly because that might create a security risk for the children, for example.
Thank you, Janet. So I've got another question for Jessica, and I know obviously the signal could be a bit dodgy here, so I'll ask it and we'll see how we go, if that's okay. So obviously you came to the UK. How did you cope with homesickness? I think that's quite an important question for some of our first year students that may be joining us.
Yeah, so I mean, my situation was, I guess, kind of specific to me. So I moved in with my aunt and uncle. So I did have family support over here. Obviously it's still difficult because you leave behind your friends and kind of like the lifestyle and the way of life that you know. But I think the best thing to do is just get involved and get busy. And I think actually coming straight into Norland and studying will be really helpful in like helping you feel settled in the country, helping you kind of meet like-minded people. And I think it's actually when I started at Norland, that's when I felt really settled in England, and it kind of it felt like home. So yeah, if I can give you any confidence in knowing that coming to Norland will feel like a home away from home, then yeah, I can pretty much guarantee that.
Lovely, thank you, Jessica. As your signal is still playing up, what I would suggest you do, if you do have questions for Jessica, and I know she'd love to hear from you, please log on to the website and you can ask her questions via the chat platform. I know she likes receiving those questions, don't you, Jessica?
Yeah, definitely. I'm sorry, my signal usually doesn't play up, but it's decided to.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Okay, now I've got a question for Sue, and it is a little bit more about accommodation, and it's mainly for the second and third year. So can you lodge with a family in your second and third year rather than staying in a student accommodation? How does that work?
Yes, absolutely. So basically in your second and third years, you find your own accommodation. So by then you'll have your friendship groups, and a lot of the third years that'll be leaving hand down their properties for first and second years and so on. So that will sort of works quite well. And that includes you being able to lodge with a family if you find a job. What you do have to be careful about, obviously, is if part of that lodging involves childcare, to make sure that you've got time to attend all your lectures and so on. So, you know, be a little bit careful about that, because your first commitment is to Norland and the work you're doing there. We sometimes get families emailing us saying they've got lodgings available and that sort of thing. And we always pass those on to everybody just straight away. We don't vet them or check them, but we'll pass on the details, and it's up to you to check it out and see if you think it might be something you'd like to do.
Thank you, Sue. Debbie, this is a question regarding placements, actually. How are you assessed on placement?
Okay, so on placement, you're visited, and the placement officer will talk through with you, you know, have you been observing children? What are you noting? What are you seeing? What are you then doing then to provide activities to support children's development? And then you'll submit those activity plans. So you'll get a visit where it will be discussed, and then you'll submit the activity plans. We also ask the families and the settings to provide an appraisal, so a midterm, so partway through and then at the end. But as well as your placement experience, running alongside of that, you've got a portfolio as well that helps you to gather and evidence your placement. So in a nutshot, you submit some reflections, your the activity plans and the things that you've been doing, so menu plans, because of course you're going to be cooking when you work with families, and these are all gathered together and assessed by the placement team.
Thank you, Debbie. Wendy, this one is for you. I've noticed that Norland students are able to get access to Together, or what is that?
So that's Norland's online digital platform whereby you can access support with mental health and wellbeing. So you can go, anybody, if you're interested to find out more, you can go and look at the Together All website, just type it in and have a look and see what they offer. But to be able to access all of their services, you need to for Norland, you need a Norland email. So you need to, we subscribe basically to that. And so then you can go on there. And what we find is really great about it is that it's 24/7. So it's always there. It's completely anonymous and confidential. Although Norland subscribe to it, we don't kind of have anything to do with it beyond that. So I think it can feel like a really separate place. There's various different functions there. There's a forum where you can go on and you can post questions and give support and get support. There's also some really useful online courses that you can take part in. Lots of other features as well. And I think it's a really useful resource, and that's available to all of our Norland students through to their NQN year. If you've got more questions you would like to ask, again, please feel free to get in touch. You can see quite a bit from just looking at their website online, and that is something that would be available to you. And again, there's definitely no extra cost. That's something that's there as part of being at Norland.
Thank you, Wendy. Another question for finance. Is this degree accessible for people from low income families? If so, how does it work, Alex?
Yes, it absolutely is. I mean, that is the main criteria for our bursaries for students from those sort of backgrounds. Absolutely. All bursaries are based on ability to pay, means to pay, effectively the income of your parents or your carers. So absolutely 100% yes.
Thank you, Alex. This one is for Elspeth. And this is regarding part of the employment weeks that we were talking about earlier on. Do you need a driving license to be able to do skid pan training?
Yes, you do. So you will need a driver's license. They do accept overseas ones for those of you who are overseas students. If you can still attend, they are very happy for non-drivers to attend. You'll still learn the theory behind it. So if you're still wanting to learn to drive, or you have a provisional license, you can still go along and have some fun, sit in the cars, but you won't be able to drive, unfortunately.
Thank you, Elspeth. Janet, this one is for you. And this is, I think, from an international student. Would potential families want to hire Norland graduates that are international and not British?
Yeah, another good question. The answer is yes, they will still want to employ you. In fact, one of the reasons we're so delighted to be able to accept more international students now, including those from Europe in a post-Brexit world, is that we have families who are looking for students perhaps who come from their own country, because they'll understand perhaps some of the culture. They might speak a particular language. That's always a great asset. We do offer Spanish lessons, for example, which was but obviously you're not necessarily going to become fluent in that language. But yeah, often it's an asset to have had that international background and a particular background from a particular country. So as I said, we might not be able to place you in your country necessarily, because it depends on the clients and depends on the families who come to our agency. But they're not looking for so-called British. They're looking for global Norland nannies.
Thank you, Janet. That's really helpful. This question is for Mandy. It's quite specific. So do you support applications from neurodiverse students?
Absolutely. We support applications from all types of students. And we've already spoken quite a lot today about the support that's available to you to enable you to succeed. I think the thing to bear in mind is you're training to work as a Norland nanny, as a nanny. And we will talk quite honestly with you about the opportunities for employment. And in some cases, I think one of the analogies we make is if you're a pilot, there are certain requirements in terms of your vision, for example, and you wouldn't be able to be a pilot if you couldn't see, for example. To be a nanny, you need to be able to look after a child in lieu of his or her parents. So we'll work with you very carefully. The last thing we want to do is to happily accept you into Norland, and any disability is not a barrier to you studying at Norland. So you can still come and study at Norland, but we want to be very honest and realistic with you about your employment opportunities. We don't want to take your fees from you for 3 years and then at the end of that time say, oh, and by the way, it's going to be really difficult for you to find a job because of your particular diversity. At the end of the day, parents will choose who they want to employ for their family. And we will guide you and support you in order to make the decisions that are right for you and your career. You can come and study here, it's no problem at all, but we want to be very honest and realistic with you about the opportunities for jobs with families once you have qualified.
Thank you, Mandy. That's really helpful. This is a question for Claire, and it is specifically for one particular student who's asked these questions today.
Yes, I noticed. I'd like her to send me an email, actually. I feel like we have some valuable conversations to have.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's covering what you said in your slide about the placement. So I wondered if you could just go through a little bit more information about the placement situation for international students having to do them in their own country. I think that the student in particular has issues because they don't actually live there or they speak the language. So if you could just go through a little bit more information, that would be really helpful, I think.
Yeah, I saw that. And actually, that's something I think we need to think about in our wording, because essentially, as long as you are not doing, it's that the 4-week placement that you need to do before you start your studies here at Norland or in your vacation time during your first term, for example. That does not have to be in your home country. It just has to be not in the UK. So, for example, if you are a resident of another country that's not your original home country, and you have the permission to work in that country under their working permissions, then yes, you can do it there. That's fine. It's just important that it's not in the UK, because then when you're in the UK with that visa, it would be breaking the rules of your visa conditions. So as long as it's not in the UK, it's fine.
That's very helpful. Thank you, Claire. This question is for Debbie. How many weeks of the calendar year do you study? How much holiday do you get? I presume we could lead on to a conversation about timetables, really.
Yeah. Okay, so actually, we tend to stick to the school holidays. So it's similar to what you'd find, you know, perhaps when you're in school or college. Although to give you opportunity to work, we do have slightly longer holidays at Christmas, at Easter, because we want you to, you know, be accessing our job shop and be supporting the families. So you'll find that we, run the same timetable as here in Bath. So that's something just to bear in mind. That's how we create our timetable. So trimester 1, so we run in trimesters. Trimester 1 runs up to about January, and trimester 2 runs to around May time. And then from May onwards, everybody's out in placement in trimester 3. So you have a lovely, great big block of placement towards the end where you can put all that knowledge into action. So you'll have placements throughout each trimester, but you have a lovely block at the end of the academic year, which just consolidates everything. So the way that the timetable works, when you're in college, you will be having, I'm afraid, really quite long days. So it's not like other universities where you might have 8 hours contact a week. You'll be here from 9 o'clock in the morning to, you know, your practical sessions finish at 4:30. And so on 2 days a week, you'll have your BA. And on 2 days a week, you'll have your practical. So we've split it up quite nicely. So when I say practical, that will be your sewing and F&N and your master classes. And so that will be Monday to Thursday. Don't think Fridays are a day off. Some weeks they will be, but most weeks we've got guest speakers coming in to talk to you, and that's the best day we can do it, is on a Friday. So you can see that when you're in college, you've got a very busy time. When you're out on placement, you will be working Monday to Thursday when you're working in settings and when you're doing daily placements. But when you go on to residential in your second year, we want to make it as real as we possibly can. And so that you will be a full week. And we will be expecting you to work about a 10-hour day, because we want to prepare you for the job that you're going to be going into. And that has to be realistic. It's a jolly hard job. And so we need to make sure that you're well prepared for that. So you can see it's a busy course, but you're well supported. Janet's already shared, you know, the high ratios. All the lecturers are accessible to you whenever you feel you need them. And you'll get a personal tutor as well. So you've got plenty of support. It is busy, but we're here to support you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Debbie. This is a question for Elspeth, and it's regarding the newly qualified year. If for any reason the placement doesn't work, how does that work out with regards to maybe redoing the year? What happens with the student?
Yeah, sure. So it is the contract is between you and the employer. So you are in an employment contract, but of course, so if something's not going quite right or whatever, we will do our best to support you and see if we can find a solution to continue in that family. But of course, if for whatever reason it's really not working, then of course you can leave, or maybe the family might not want you to stay either. So in that situation, it will really depend on what the circumstances are. Of course, if there's if it's just a straightforward sort of bad match between the two of you, then it might be that you can just continue with the rest of your year. If we feel that actually it was maybe due to some practice related issues where maybe you just need a little bit more experience, we will take the liberty to sort of say maybe you need to redo the 12 months, or our non-diploma regulations say we might add on 2 months to your placement. But it really depends on the circumstances. Of course, the family might also need to let you go because they financially can't keep you on or something like that, and of course in that case it would usually just be a transfer to another family. So it really depends on the circumstance, and we absolutely want you to succeed, so we will do our absolute best to make sure you complete that year as best as possible. So definitely we will do our best to support you.
Thank you, Elspeth. I'm conscious that it is now 12 o'clock. We do have a few more questions, so I'm going to carry on if that's okay. If you do have to leave us, thank you so much for joining us today, but the recording will be available so you can access the last few moments in your own time and at your own pace. So I will go through a few more questions with the rest of the staff now. So, but if you are leaving us, we'll look forward to seeing you again, hopefully. So this question I have is Sue, and this is regarding the interviews. I know Mandy explained how what the process would be, but could you maybe go into a little bit more detail about what the actual interview involves, what actually happens? I've had a really lovely question about confidence in an interview, whether that potentially could hinder your chances of being offered a place. So I think that reassurance of how it works would be really beneficial.
Yeah, sure. So really our interviews, they're kind of in 2 parts. So if you do a Zoom interview, you'll be doing these 2 parts both in together with one interviewer. If you come in person, which we hope you can manage, then basically you'll get a little welcome talk, which is from the principal and vice principal and Alex, Chief of Finance, and they'll just to make sure you understand everything about Norland that you need to know. Then you'll have either a group task or a one-to-one interview. A one-to-one interview is exactly the same as normal, really. You'll just sit down with someone, hopefully be able to relax, show yourself at your best, and just answer questions and generally chat about Norland and the training and that sort of thing. The other part, as I've just mentioned, the group task, I don't quite know why we call it that. It's not really a task. It's just you'll be preparing a little talk, really, a little presentation. And you'll be within a group, so there'll be perhaps 4 to 6 other interviewees with you, and you'll be talking to them as well as a member of staff, or actually 2 members of staff. And we let you know about what that task's going to be about 2 weeks before the interview, or what the subject of your little presentation is, so you'll get time to prepare it. And yeah, that's it really. Once you've done both those 2 things, then you're ready to go. And I think, as Mandy said, we try and let you know as soon as we can, but some people do have to wait a few months. It depends really, but generally speaking, we'll let you know the answer straight away.
I think it's also worth mentioning that the presentation task, which sounds very
yes,
scary, it's not scary. It won't be about anything that you can't talk about, okay? Because what we want to check is, can you communicate well? Do you listen to other people? Can you answer questions? Can you talk about something that you're familiar with? So it's not going to be anything you're going to have to go and do huge amounts of research for. We'll give you 2 weeks notice as to exactly what it's about. But please try not to worry about it, because you are going to be in a group of other applicants who all feel exactly the same way that you do about it. And you'll all be trying to put on a brave face, and you will think that you're the only one who's scared, but everyone will be scared, okay? So don't worry.
Yeah, exactly, Mandy. And also along the lines of the confidence question, basically we want you to relax. We want to see the best of you, and we'll absolutely do our best to make sure that you can relax. And when it's not a test, and we're not, you know, it's not a difficult thing to go through. We want to all have a lovely time together and get to know each other and that sort of thing. That's what it's really about.
Brilliant. I hope that that helped with that question. I have a question from Mog in student support, and this is regarding essays. So this person's not had many essays to write previously. How will the student be supported with writing an essays?
Okay, so that's a question I've been asked a few times when I first came to Norland with other students. It's about planning and structure, and I'm able to help with that. And I'd kind of touched on that in the earlier question. So I can actually help you to structure how you're going to do it. Your lecturers, when they give out the assignments that you're going to be doing, they're very, very good at explaining what you're going to be doing so that it takes some of the panic away. And when you start writing, and I can also help, and so can the people in the library, we can guide you in knowing what literature you should be reading, what you should be researching to help you. And I will help you with referencing, grammar, spelling. The key is really to be just very open and come and have a chat, and we do everything we can to support you. The beauty about your first essay is that you will get some feedback. You get feedback with all of your work, but you'll get feedback. And some students get terribly panicky that the feedback is going to be negative or worrying. Please don't think that. Feedback is about supporting you to know how to develop. And we all have to have a start point. And from that start point, we learn. It's a big learning curve. And so you will be supported in actually doing essays as much as we're able to. But you will also be given lots of feedback afterwards that you're able to then work through. And if you struggle with understanding the feedback, I again, and the library team and my colleague Wendy, we can help to ensure that you understand what that's about. I hope that answers your question, but don't be frightened of it. Enjoy it. It is a really important part of your learning process. Okay.
Yeah, and can I also just add that we also provide you with some study skills sessions which are timetabled in, so everybody accesses those. So the academic team work really closely with student support. So we're talking to each other all the time, and jointly we provide some study skills sessions to look at the different types of assessments so that you're well prepared. And also within your modules, you're going to get some formative assessments. So that's kind of a little, I don't want to call it a test, but it's about you knowing what you can and can't remember. And that's a kind of little try before you buy for your assessment. And they're embedded into all of our modules. So you can kind of test yourself partway through in readiness for your assessment.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you, that's really, really helpful. Alex, I have one for you, and you may have obviously covered this already, but I think it's a question from one of our international students. I'm finishing a degree in my home country, so Norland would actually be my second degree. I'm also considered at risk of social exclusion because of my economical means. Would I be eligible for the bursary? I know you've touched on bursaries quite a lot, but I do think that's quite a specific question that you could be able to answer for that person.
Our bursary policy is on our website, and actually the bursary provision is open to students where this is your first degree. So unfortunately, if you're studying, if Norland will be your second degree, you unfortunately can't apply for a Norland bursary. However, there are the other sort of methods of helping you with your course in terms of instalments or deferring a year that certainly may be able to help you.
Lovely, thank you very much. I have another question for admissions. So this is for you. Would it be better to apply this year for deferred entry or to apply next year?
At least you'd be sure of your place if you apply this year. But yeah, there'll still be places available next year. I think it's kind of a personal choice, really. You know, whether you want to go away and do a gap year or have some more, gain some more experience or earn some money and just know that you're coming to Norland, or not. It makes no difference to us, basically. We wouldn't differentiate between them. Would you agree, Mandy?
Yeah, I would. It's complete personal choice.
Lovely, thank you very much. This is kind of the last question that we have, and I'm going to direct this at Mandy, if that's okay. You mentioned the Code of Responsibilities. I wondered if you could go in a little bit more depth about actually what that is and what our students and our alumni sign up to when they're joining Norland.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I probably should have said a bit more about that. So it's like a professional code of conduct. It's nothing, well, Janet always says it's nothing weird or cultish, so I'm going to steal her words there. It just provides you with a framework of how to communicate with others, how to treat others. So it's things like we expect you to be kind to each other. We expect you to attend your lectures on time and to pay attention and engage with them. We expect you to treat children and families with the utmost respect. We expect you to do your very best for the children and families that you work with. It's all that sort of thing. The full code is on our website, and it is something that is ingrained within Norland, right from when you first walk through those doors and throughout the rest of your career. So we expect you to sign up to that code when you first arrive, and then each year that you're here. And then when you graduate, we expect you to sign again to say that you will continue to abide by that code as a Norland student and as a Norland graduate. And I think the main reason we do that is because you are going to be the guardians of our reputation. And our reputation is important to you because it's what gets you the best jobs. You know, people want Norland nannies because they are the best. And they are the best because they adhere to that code of professional responsibilities. So it is in your interest to abide by and sign up to that code. And it is in the interest of every other single person that's gone before you and that will follow you. So you hold our reputation for your own benefit, but for the benefit of all your peers, all the people that have gone before you and all the people that will come behind you. So we take it very, very seriously, because we want to safeguard your job and the jobs of everybody else. So it is a very responsible thing to do. Have a look at the website and see what it is. But as I said, it's nothing. We don't expect you to, wear your hair in a certain day in a certain way, or face towards the sun at 2 o'clock every day, or anything like that. It's nothing weird. Okay, it's all about treating others with respect and kindness, particularly young children and their families.
I think that's a lovely way to summarise and to finish off the Q&A. So that is all we have time for. Thank you so much for everyone's questions. I hope we got through them. I hope we answered them all for you. Like I said, if you do have any further questions, you can contact us via live chat. You can contact the admissions department and the inquiries department, and we'll be able to answer them as best we can. We also have FAQs on our website, so please take your time to have a look at those as well. It just means me to say thank you so much to our wonderful staff and students, and I'm going to pass you over to Janet for our final comments. Thank you very much.
Before I do the final farewell, there's just a couple more I noticed in the Q&A chat box. Do you want me to quickly answer those, Kate?
Yes, if you want to.
I think it was just asking about types of A-levels, and I think that we kind of said that there's no specific A-levels. So you mentioned ones that might be useful, but if you wanted to do textiles or some T-levels, that won't stop you being potentially accepted to Norland. And we hope to tell you once you've been interviewed within a few weeks, we hope. So soon after, so you may hear within a week, 2 to 3 weeks after your interview. Partly depends when it takes place.
Sorry, Janet, I think if the question you were answering there was when you hear initially, once you've made your application on UCAS, you usually get invited to interview within 2 or 3 days. And then that interview will be either 2 weeks away or a couple of months away, depending on how filled up the sessions are.
Sorry, I misread that question. Well done, Sue.
No worries.
Anyway, answered both possible questions that you might have had anyway. Right, that's it, folks. We thank you so much for bearing with us and hanging in there. It's been great having you here. Don't forget, if you wanted to become a Norland nanny, you will be influencing those young lives, laying the foundations for their future. Remember, 80 to 90% of brain development takes place before the age of 3. So wow, you are literally helping to shape their futures. and getting very well paid for it. So thank you all very much for joining us. We look forward to receiving your applications and perhaps seeing you at Norland one day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.